Look at my Oxford people showing up. Everybody from Oxford is on here. See, this is loud. I'm like whispering. This thing is loud. We're going to get started in just a minute. All right, y'all. I'm going to share my screen here so that Christy and Brad can get started on their presentation. And I know it sounds boring, and it's because you really need it. So I have all the questions, but I'm going to let him go through it before I ask him all the questions. So let's see if this looks good on the slides. And if not, we'll just blow up the email. Is it going to mess up the format? No, looks good, I think. Boom. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to y'all. Christy, you want to get us started? Whatever you want to do. Usually like 45 minutes or so is how long we usually are here. So yeah, if you wrap up, that's fine.
Hey guys, how are y'all? Hello on the screen. So today is not all about choice. It's about, we all have an air conditioner, I hope. Our clients have an air conditioner, your sellers, your buyers. So this is stuff that rolled out and really none of us knew about. So Bradford's going to talk about what to do, what to look for, what the changes are, and I think it's really going to help in your business. But ask questions as you go, and Choice is here to support you. But this is really about just a class in knowledge.
Good deal. Thanks, everybody. So my background, I started in real estate. Well, my dad is a broker, and so I grew up in real estate. I got into home inspections in 1997 and owned and operated my home inspection company for 20 years. And so when I got tired of crawling under houses and walking on roofs, I got into home warranties. I worked in outside sales for several years, and then I transitioned into this education role. And it kind of worked out perfectly because starting last year is when this EPA mandate started. 2025 is not a misprint. It started last year and nobody has heard anything about it. The law actually passed in 2023 to go into effect 2025. But unless you were in heating and air, you probably didn't know anything about it, and you probably won't hear anything about it until you have an air conditioner issue. And then it's going to be a big surprise, and a lot of people are going to start wringing their hands. And I believe it's going to affect real estate contracts moving forward. And I believe it's possibly going to end up in litigation when customers are not happy and were not informed of what's going on. So that's the essence of this presentation. So again, 2025, what does it mean? I did just kind of a bullet point presentation to kind of just hit the high points. This is an hour-long class that I just kind of condensed, so I'm not going to keep you for that long. But this is ultimately what it means starting January 1st of last year. All new HVAC installations must utilize refrigerants with a lower global warming potential. So if you ever see the term global warming potential or even the acronym GWP, that is what this is all about. It's not about energy efficiency. It's not about performance. It's strictly about global warming potential. If you don't know, all the refrigerants that we have been using that most people are familiar with, whether it be R22 or 410A, both of those refrigerants are considered a greenhouse gas. These greenhouse gases that we use as refrigerants are 2,000 times more harmful to the environment than the carbon dioxide that we exhale. So carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas too, but the refrigerants that we have are much more damaging to the environment, henceforth the reason for this change. Now the new refrigerants, because I'm not going to go crazy into details on all the big words and whatnot, but the new refrigerants that you will start to see are R32 and R454B. These new refrigerants are a completely different category. They aren't greenhouse gases, but they are 68 to 78%, or they have 68 to 78% lower global warming potential than the previous refrigerants. However, downside of the new refrigerants is, yes, they're not a greenhouse gas, but the new refrigerants are mildly flammable. So obviously that's going to change things considerably moving forward. Old refrigerants had no flame propagation. The new refrigerants are flammable. Now, what does that mean? Well, manufacturers can still produce old refrigerants and they can still produce old parts, but none of these new components are compatible with older systems. So nothing related to the new systems will work with old systems. Furthermore, manufacturers are not keeping up with demand for 410A systems. So parts are not as readily available for your old systems, and new parts can't go into old parts. If you've ever done a repair on a R22 system, you could actually put a 410A evaporator into an R22 system. So parts were interchangeable. So we had an old changeout with R22, but the new changeover is going to be a lot more difficult as it relates to consumers handling these type of repairs and replacements. And again, another big factor is manufacturers are simply not keeping up with parts. Now, you might ask yourself, how do you know that manufacturers aren't keeping up with parts? Are you just trying to scare me into buying a home warranty? Well, not necessarily. If you know anything about how home warranties work, home warranties are always going to make the most cost-effective measure to fix a problem. We are not in the business of gifting people brand new air conditioners. That's not a good business model to stay profitable. And so if we can fix something, we're going to. Well, by about May of last year, so only 5 months into this EPA mandate, we basically had to start rubber stamping replacements of air conditioners because we could not obtain parts. If a national home warranty company can't find parts, then your local HVAC technician can't find parts. And so that is the reason why this is such a big talking point, is because people are going to have to start replacing air conditioners probably well before life expectancy of the equipment. And so again, scarcity of parts is the big takeaway. Now, if you go into houses, you will already start to see what? Oh, do you have a question? Go ahead. Yeah.
You just said it. I'm like, my real question is, you're right, that's not a profitable business model. And how are you guys going to handle that? Like, is there going to be a point where you're like, all right, well, we just can't do this anymore? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll answer that question moving forward because, yeah, it is a problem, but what we're going to find is most of the issues isn't necessarily the wholesale cost of the new equipment. It is the retail costs of the new equipment, and we'll get to that into a little bit. This picture was taken in August of last year. I drove through a new construction neighborhood, and I popped into the model house, and I asked the realtor, can I take a picture of your air conditioner? And she looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, I just want to see what's being installed. It was a new construction house. It wasn't under contract. And I wanted to know if they were still putting in 410A systems. Last year, there was a grace period. You could still put in 410A systems. Last year, that was the only grace period that was given for installing old 410A systems. But sure enough, I go into the attic. The picture on the left is an ID tag for an evaporator, so it's up in the attic. The ID tag on the right is an ID tag on a condensing unit, so outside. And the units are readily labeled. Now, some of the stuff is kind of covered up, but it says on the bottom, refrig R32. It's also covered up on the side over here. It says refrigerant type R32. You can see on the picture, yeah, thank you. Refrigerant type R32. And right underneath refrigerant type, it even says global warming potential. And so all new air conditioners must have a global warming potential lower than 700. And so this unit has a global warming potential of 675. Personally, if I was a realtor and I was going to a listing appointment, I would take a peek at the air conditioners to see what they have. If they've got a new system with the new refrigerant, I think that's a selling point. Even put it on the MLS notes because these new units are very expensive. And again, we'll get to that in a little bit. But you will never see the term global warming potential on an older air conditioner. Usually you will see something like R22, sometimes you'll see HCFC22, or you'll see 410A on the older systems. Newer units are readily labeled. Again, you can see refrig R32, refrigerant type R32. And then the next thing I want to draw your attention to is this little icon right here, the little diamond shape with the flames in it. They have to label flammable products. And so the new air conditioners actually will have that diamond shaped hazard warning because the refrigerants are flammable. I actually went to Home Depot a couple of weekends ago because now they're starting to sell all the window air conditioners. Every single window air conditioner has got that diamond shape on it. All new air conditioners are going to have these types of systems. So they are here. Be prepared of the new refrigerants. Again, R32 and 454B, those are the two new refrigerants that we will be using. There we go. Okay, so what does this really mean? Well, the reason why we're screaming from the rooftops that folks need to be prepared for this is because regardless of how old your air conditioner is, if you've got an R22 or a 410A systems, if you can't find a part, and I put this in bold, regardless of how insignificant that part might be, like a condensing fan motor. If you can't find a condensing fan motor, what options do consumers have when it comes to repairing? If you can't obtain a part, you don't have any option but to replace the entire system. And so when I say replace an entire system, that doesn't just mean the condenser, because the new components are not compatible with the old systems. So if you have a part fail, even a part that you think should be able to be replaced, if that part's not available, you've got to replace not only the condensing unit, but also the evaporator, and sometimes even the line set connecting the two. And so again, that's going to be a big shock to consumers if they think their system that has life expectancy has to be replaced. And of course, this dovetails into the next question: how long should an air conditioner last? Somebody throw out, tell me how long an air conditioner should last. I think that is probably what most heating and air contractors would say is 15 years. That is a good life expectancy. When I did home inspections, I would routinely see 20-year-old systems, 25-year-old systems. Certainly the better maintained a heating and air system is, the longer it's going to last. But ask yourself this question: how many 20-year-old systems, 25-year-old systems do you see that have never had a single part replaced? I would argue every single system that is at or near or beyond life expectancy has had something replaced, whether it be a compressor, whether it be a condensing fan motor, whether it be an evaporator. Probably something has been replaced. And now moving forward, if you have a part fail well before life expectancy and that part's not available, again, customers are not going to have any options but to replace the entire systems. And then the real kicker, again, more reasons why we're screaming from the rooftops about this refrigerant changeover, is these new systems are up to 30% more expensive than the 410A systems. I thought the 410A systems were crazy expensive. These new units are even more. We've seen retail estimates range between $13,000 to $18,000 for an air conditioner. Now, obviously, the cost is going to depend a lot on tonnage. It's going to depend a lot on features, SEER ratings, things of that nature. And certainly, I throw these numbers out. These are numbers that realtors have quoted me. Oh my gosh, my customer had to replace it. They spent this much. Or I've had to replace my system. We had to spend this much. Can you get an air conditioner for less than that? Of course you can. If you've got a mom and pop HVAC guy, hang on to them. You might be able to get it for less. But if you're calling any of these big box retailers, the folks that have 20 trucks running, that are advertising on the radio and on the television, believe me, you're going to get a much higher end retail replacement cost than not. So keep that in mind. Now, kind of begs the question, why are these systems so expensive? Well, flammable refrigerants, that plays a big role. It increases the shipping and handling costs for both manufacturers and retailers. Components, if you didn't know this, when they used to ship air conditioning components, whether it be an evaporator or a condenser, they would always be shipped with a factory charge. So in other words, the components would already have refrigerant in them, and then they would install them, and then they would just fill it up with the additional refrigerant required. Well, now, because of flammable refrigerants, they have to be shipped completely empty. And so that means the retailer who's doing the installation has to fill the unit completely up with refrigerant. How much do retailers charge for refrigerant? An astronomical amount of money. So again, that cost is laid at the feet of the homeowner, because what normally would be already full of refrigerant, now they're having to pay retail costs for refrigerant, which is quadruple, 5, 6 times more than what you would pay normally wholesale. So again, that is driving a lot of the cost up as well. Furthermore, because of the flammable refrigerants, we've got safety sensors that are required. Does anybody know what air conditioners sit right on top of? You go in your house, your evaporator, what's it sitting on top of? A gas-fired furnace. The last thing you want is flammable refrigerants near gas-fired furnaces. So you actually have to have refrigerant detectors inside the furnace to tell if there's a refrigerant leak. Again, increasing cost. And then we've got training for the HVAC technicians. They've got to learn how to work these new systems, learn how to install them, all the different requirements. And again, if you've ever seen a heating and air contractor, they used to have canisters of refrigerant just rolling around in the back of their truck. They can't do that anymore. Flammable refrigerants have to be transported and stored very specifically for safety purposes. And again, just turns around and makes the cost that much more expensive. Then May 21st happened. So I tell you all that story, what we've been dealing with for the last year and a half. And then last week, or a week and a half ago, May 21st happened, and this is what happens. Trump rolls back Biden-era refrigerant rules. Trump EPA rollback refrigerant rule for grocery stores. Now, the reason for this, and again, a lot of this is for political gain, but the main reason was this for lowering food costs. These EPA mandates also had to do with air conditioning or refrigeration units in grocery stores. So the mandate also went to grocery stores and said by a certain timeline, which we're about to abut, the timeline was all grocery stores had to retrofit all their refrigeration, and it was going to cost them a ton of money. Do you think grocery stores are just going to absorb that extra cost? No, they're not. They're going to turn around and raise the cost of groceries. And so the reasoning behind all of that was, and you can keep it on that slide. These are just more headlines. And so that was from the WhiteHouse.gov. That's from the New York Times. And so again, splayed all over the media is all these stories about Trump rolling back the EPA guidelines. Well, what does that mean? Why am I still talking to you? We should all be good, right? What does a refrigerant rollback look like? What does that even mean? Because, I mean, it sounds great. They've got all these CEOs standing behind him. He does an executive order, blah, blah, blah. But does it mean it's all business as usual prior to this? We've been in this EPA mandate for a year and a half. How long does it take a manufacturer to retool a product? Well, you plug it into AI and it says between 6 to 8 weeks to 1 to 3 years. And so these manufacturers have known this was coming since 2023. So they've been retooling for 2 years before they even rolled this out. And now do you think they're going to retool it again because of the rollback? I'm asking a lot of questions that there aren't really answers to, but I want everybody to think about it because the government can do one thing, but that doesn't mean private companies are going to do something else. How much money does it cost to retool a manufacturing plant? I'll answer it for you. It costs millions of dollars to retool a production line. And so, do you think after they've already done this for 2 years, they're immediately going to roll back and start pumping out 410A parts? It leads to the next question. What happens if a Democrat wins the White House in 2 years? You think manufacturers are going to start pumping all that money to assume that these rollbacks are not just going to put right back into effect in 2 more years? That's a big gamble, and it's a big gamble with a lot of money. And so I don't really know. I mean, my hands are kind of raised as to how they're going to handle it. If I had a guess, a lot of these AC manufacturers are worldwide corporations. They're giant conglomerates. Many companies have continued to make 410A parts, but only in other countries where 410A was not banned. I would bet they're probably just going to import them. But what does an imported part look like? How long is it going to take? Yeah, don't order your air conditioner on Temu. But again, what is that going to do to the supply side of things? Are you going to be able to readily get a part if all those parts have to be shipped from overseas? I don't believe so. Do you think the current manufacturers, the current supply houses, the current retailers are going to throw out all the current stock of R32 and 454B? They're flush with all of this brand new equipment. And now, just because they roll back an EPA mandate, their supply houses are full of them. So are they going to toss them out? You know darn well they're going to keep selling them. And do you think they're going to sit a homeowner down and talk about the EPA mandate and the rollback and all the different options that they have? No, they're going to say, sorry, this is what we've got, R32. This is what we've got, 454B. This is what you're going to get, and this is the price tag. So again, I think this is going to be chaos. And actually, I think I even said chaos. Yeah, takeaway. Expect supply side chaos for the next 6 months to a year. And again, I say a year really conservatively because, again, I mean, if I were a CEO of an air conditioning company, I'm not sure I'd be willing to fork over millions of dollars because there's just no guarantees there's going to be a Republican in the White House in 2 more years. And so, again, I don't think the message really changes at all as it relates to these mandates. The scarcity of parts is still going to be the driving factor behind how air conditioners are going to be handled moving forward. Now, what should realtors do to protect their clients? Because again, a lot of your clients, homeowners, buyers, sellers, investors, probably have no idea what's going on until something goes wrong. And then they're like, why didn't you tell me? So what do? Well, from a risk management standpoint, certainly I work for a warranty company that you can't protect anybody any better from this. You can tell folks all day long about it, but until you start saying, hey, we don't know what's going to happen as it relates to these mandates, but you might possibly be dealing with a very significant repair and or replacement bill moving forward. And the best way to protect yourself is through a home warranty. Furthermore, a lot of realtors think home warranties are simply a feature. They're a feature for a seller. They're a feature for a buyer. They are a risk management tool for you. They are your buffer zone between you and that transaction. You don't know when systems are going to fail. You can't predict an air conditioner going out. But guess what happens when your buyer has an air conditioner go out? You should have told me. You should have known this was going to happen. What EPA mandate? Nobody said anything to me about this. I didn't know I might have to replace a 10-year-old system. And they start pointing fingers. And that's my biggest fear for this mandate overall. Overarching fear is litigation in real estate. I already told you I did home inspections for 20 years. Has anybody in the room ever been sued? Man, it ain't fun. I always tell realtors when I miss something on a home inspection, I just pay for it. but I got sued for stuff that had nothing to do with my home inspection. When I got sued, guess who else got sued? Not just one realtor. The selling agent, the buyer's agent, the seller, literally everybody was sued. Why? Why is everybody sued? Because attorneys are looking for deep pockets. They want as many resources to get extract as much money from that transaction as possible. And so they are going to name every single person in that real estate transaction that could even remotely be linked to whatever grievance that buyer has. And so when I got sued, I mean, it was a complete waste of an entire day. I didn't get a judgment against me because it had nothing to do with my home inspection. But man, what a waste. And it was such a terrible thing. But again, how are we going to handle this moving forward? Do you have any responsibility as it relates to this EPA mandate? You're the real estate specialist. You've got to know about this, and you really should start sharing this information with buyers and sellers and investors. We've also had clients that will tell you to your face, I don't want a home warranty. They ain't worth the paper they're written on. I had a bad experience. You know, they'll tell you all about their problems, and then you're like, okay, fine. You choose not to get a warranty. Guess what happens when they have a problem after they close? They're still calling you up. Right. And that's why I said they'll tell you verbally. If you have a client that is adamant about not getting a home warranty, please, please, please get an additional paper trail. I know real estate contracts are geared to protect you, and there are check boxes and things that say you were given an opportunity to get a warranty. But in a court of law, is a checkbox on a real estate contract enough to protect you from litigation? Amongst dozens of other signatures, initials, and whatever, it's easy for a buyer to say, I didn't realize the ramifications of not getting it. And so please, please, please consider an additional paper trail, whether it be text messages, whether it be an email chain. Christy, if you got a brochure handy, we actually even have a waiver inside our brochure that basically indemnifies you because it says the buyer declines the coverage for a home warranty. And again, it's just a way to bulletproof your limit of liability. Christy will pose man away. But it's on the order page in the very back of our brochure. And I believe most warranty companies do that because, again, it is a powerful way. You can say all day long till you're red in the face that you should get a warranty. If they don't sign something, it's, again, just an additional way to ironclad your limit of liability. Furthermore, during the inspection period, what happens when inspections come back with defective things on the inspection report? How many people have seen or heard this on an inspection report? Temperature differential is inadequate between the supply and return air. It's only 10 degrees. This is not within the 15 to 20 degree range. Suggest further review by a licensed HVAC technician. Can you tell I've said that before on home inspections? It's very common, especially in the summertime. Well, what happens when that pops up on an inspection report? You turn around, you give it to the seller, you say, fix it. And then an HVAC technician who's being paid for by whom? The seller fills that system full of refrigerant, hands you a piece of paper saying they put 5 pounds of refrigerant in the air conditioner. The seller slides it over to the realtor. They fixed it, right? Are air conditioners designed to leak refrigerant? They are completely sealed. They should never leak refrigerant. If you have to add refrigerant to an air conditioner, you have a leak somewhere. And so moving forward, if you have a system that is low on refrigerant, I highly, highly suggest everybody obtain a leak detection test. Anytime someone has to add refrigerant to an air conditioner, there is a leak. A leak detection test is going to do two things. One, it's going to tell you where the leak is, and the other thing it's going to tell you is how bad the leak is. Where the leak is very important because there are some repairable refrigerant leaks. If you have an accessible part of your refrigerant lines that has a leak, that is repairable. If you have a bad Schrader valve, which is where they hook their hoses up to test for refrigerant, it's where they add refrigerants. If the Schrader valve is bad, that is a repairable refrigerant leak. Pretty much every other refrigerant leak is unrepairable. If it's in the condensing coil, it's unrepairable. If it's in the evaporator coil, it's unrepairable. And so what are you going to do as your buyer's representative and you've got a system that's low on refrigerant. Because if you accept adding refrigerant as a repair, you're basically kicking a can down the road that you're telling your buyer you're going to have to assume the responsibility of this air conditioner that's probably going to have to get replaced sooner than later. If you've ever driven around and realized that you've got a flat tire and you pull your car over to a service station and you ask the service station, say, hey, I'm on the flat, fix my tire. If they went up to that tire, filled it full of air, and then told you to go about your merry way, what would you do? You say, I don't want to be 5 miles down the road and back on a flat. So you wouldn't accept that with a tire. You really should not accept that with an air conditioner. Get the leak detection test done so then you can properly determine what repairs need to be done moving forward. Now, I readily admit systems that are a pound and a half low on refrigerant, you can add refrigerant. There's even additives that you can put in the refrigerant called leak stop that can seal very small leaks. But if you have any significant loss of refrigerant, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds low of refrigerant, that's a big leak. If you fill it full of refrigerant, do you know how long that's going to last? Think about it. We have an inspection done. Usually that inspection is done anywhere between what, 2 to 4 weeks before closing? If that repair is done and they pump that system full of refrigerant and it was already 3 or 4 pounds low on refrigerant, you might get a month out of it. You might, and then you're back in the same boat. And then what happens? They move in. The week they move in, then an air conditioner is broken. That is just a recipe for a very, very upset buyer. They're trying to move in, and now they're dealing with an air conditioner that's failed. Furthermore, what's going to happen for their home warranty? If they call a claim in a week after closing, and they have an air conditioner that's broken, and their inspection report says it wasn't working during the inspection period, and the only paperwork they have is that they filled it full of refrigerant. Again, that's just like putting air in a tire that's flat. That's not a repair. All they did was kick a can down the road. That would be a denied claim for any home warranty company. That's not just Choice, that's any home warranty company, because that is a known pre-existing condition. And there is a huge difference between a known pre-existing and an unknown pre-existing. So again, that's why I'm stressing leak detection test is really going to be very important to ironcladding your client's coverage as it relates to the home warranty. Again, some refrigerant leaks can be repaired, but most cannot. And again, if you're in a situation where a part's not available, what option does the seller have? They can't fix it if that part's not available. They're going to have to replace the entire system. And guess what? Your buyer is going to be crazy about you if it happens. I just got a brand new air conditioner before I moved into my house. That's why I think negotiations moving forward are going to be, or could be, contentious. If you put the pedal down and you go to bat for your buyers, it can be potentially contentious moving forward. Yes, Christy.
But if you have this situation, a couple thousand versus 10, 12, 15,000, that is still a deal. That gets you no commission. So do not sell it, and that's a whole nother class. You need to have a dealt with sellers coming.
And I'm going to jump in. Seller's coverage with HVAC added, because HVAC is an option. In order to cover, not buyers are always covered with HVAC, but for sellers, you have to add HVAC coverage during the listing period.
Yeah, and most agents say, so we're putting the seller's coverage on here, and you're going to cover your HVAC. They don't really give a question, they say.
Yeah.
So this is like deja vu. I don't know if I think this, but I actually negotiated for one of my buyers. He said, I'm so thankful for great realtors like you. You're a godsend. Our entire HVAC system has gone completely out and must be replaced. But thanks to you negotiating on our behalf for a warranty protection with Choice, it will be replaced this week. We only have to pay a small portion as compared to what we would have paid as a major expense. Choice warranty got it right. Again, they got right on it. Thanks for being so awesome.
Oh, you got to send that to Christy. Y'all didn't hear, but Tia just had a glowing review. Oh, don't cry.
Like I do a 30-day post load and it was working fine, of course. Cause I don't wanna have to have a bad call, but she texted me and was like, yeah, it went out and Joyce did a great job. And I
That's
didn't have to
awesome.
call you on though.
That would have got my team involved to jump and see what we need to do to get it on track. So it's beneficial.
That's great. Yeah, you need to print that out. That's what I was gonna say is when you have a listing, especially things are sitting right now, like just put it on there and don't even ask your seller because I promise you when they have to pay $600 or whatever the home warranty costs, they're gonna be like, that's cool. Like they don't care. It's free unless you use it basically. Once you use it, you pay for it, but it's worth every dollar. Like I had a listing last year that had a home warranty on it and I didn't tell my sellers, I just did it. And their HVAC went out. They had already moved. They didn't know. We just had a showing that popped, somebody came to see it and they're like, it's really hot in here. And they had to get a whole new system. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I have a warranty on it. And they're like, what? Like, it just blows their mind when it works. And it doesn't cost them anything if you don't use it. So,
We did that and because seller's coverage warranties went away. So that is
will you,
go back to.
yeah, I'm like, you may want to say that to the camera.
So, sorry. So we did auto list for years and years until COVID hit. And once COVID hit, warranties went away. I mean, y'all were selling houses before you even hit enter. So we were the least thing written in. So we stopped doing auto lists because it just wasn't a value to have seller's coverage. So that is definitely a conversation that we can have again because it's easy to do. You can opt out as an agent or opt in. And most all agents, I would say if you had 100 agents at Keller Williams, I would say 90 of them would do the seller's coverage. So that is definitely something we can go back to, have some classes, do some scripts. That is very easy to relearn.
Yeah, to re-implement or even there must be a way to see what all listings go live and that way you get that list and have those conversations, whatever. Mm-hmm.
You were something in the meantime before that Monday, send it directly to Christy. So it was easy to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. Here you go, Brad.
Sorry, Brad.
No, that's the point of this is to learn how to take care of buyers and sellers. The last thing I'll do, and we kind of touched on this already, is just moving forward, please pay attention to your home inspection reports. Make sure any and all things defective related to air conditioners are addressed. And I'm sorry I have to say this, but make sure that they're done by a licensed HVAC technician. I have had situations when I was in outside sales where realtors literally accepted a notebook paper, scratch, the neighbor did it, Uncle Bubba did it. Somebody, oh, I used to be an HVAC 15 years ago, I looked at it. If a system is dirty, they'll accept the homeowner getting a garden hose out there and cleaning an air conditioner. If a system is not cooling properly, if a system is on an inspection report as saying it's dirty, people don't think much of a dirty air conditioner, but that will absolutely cause a compressor to fail. A dirty system has to work twice as hard to cool a house. And so a lot of times people don't think twice about a dirty air conditioner, like, oh, big deal. It can impact coverage on your home warranty. So dot your I's, cross your T's, anything related to mechanical systems that are on a home inspection report can potentially affect coverage after closing. So you definitely want to make sure. And if the seller gives you grief or if the listing agent gives you grief, all you're trying to do is protect your buyer. You're not trying to be a difficult agent. You just say, I want to make sure they've got their proper coverage after closing. Because again, some people will scoff at, I shouldn't have to pay to get an air conditioner cleaned, blah, blah, blah. If it's on the home inspection report, that is something that can potentially be flagged after closing as a pre-existing condition and a potential cause for failure. So again, get all those things taken care of prior to closing. I think that is it. I will, yeah, sure.
And I'm gonna let you finish. I feel like Kanye. I'm gonna let you finish, but let me say one more thing. Um, this feels like y'all something you should add to your presentations on both sides. Like they should just know, hey, this is a huge deal. Actually, it's a huge system that could go out. I don't care. Yeah, like you said, if it's a condenser, that shouldn't be very hard to find, and it is. Like tell buyers, listen, we need to get a home warranty because this is why. And sellers, we need to put a warranty on this. This is why. So it needs to, and it sounds like it just needs to be a part of your conversation after this because you're right. No CEO is going to go back to the old way when they have a very expensive product sitting in their shelf. Like, even if they could, why would they? It's like when grocery prices go up and then they're like, well, they're never going back down. Like, it's just the cost now. Like, I don't care what Trump says. Like, they're like, well, people are paying it. So even if our costs go down, yours isn't. Right? Anyways, that's my soapbox for the day. Let me give you this so the people on Zoom. No, you're okay.
I do have a one pager for buyers, a one pager for sellers, and then just in general on the EPAs that I'll just send, and then y'all can all have them and have them for your listing presentations or buyers presentations. And let me just, I can't stress enough about that cleaning of the unit. I will probably literally have about 7 or 8 this summer, as I do every summer, that the only thing he called out was clean the unit. He showed pictures. It looked like it had lint from your dryer attached to it because it's so built up with dirt. And if they had just got that unit cleaned, they would have got a whole new system. So don't leave that on the table. And if the seller won't do it, you have your person there the day of close and have it cleaned. You have that receipt. And if something happens, it's always 2 weeks. It's always 2 weeks. That's always the story of my life. Have it cleaned and then we're good.
That sounds like a cheap way to be your buyer's hero. So, okay, I'm gonna let you finish now, Brad.
The last thing I'll touch on, because you touched on it, question when we first started, how is the massive expense of these new systems going to affect home warranties moving forward? Because you would expect home warranty prices are going to start going through the roof, right? Well, sadly, the wholesale value of these air conditioners is not really that much more expensive. It's the retail value that's more expensive because it's the technicians that are charging more. They're charging more for refrigerant. They're charging more for because they've got to pay to get all their technicians trained. They've got to properly store and transport the new refrigerant. And so most of the added expense is on the retail side, not on the wholesale side. Now, if you don't know anything about Choice, we actually haven't raised our prices in 3 years. We are going to have a price increase probably in September or October of this year, but we've kept the same price for 3 years. Most of your warranty companies raise their rates every single year, but it's not going to be a precipitous increase. You would think every warranty is going to be over $1,000. I think we're probably going to have a $30 to $40 increase per year. But again, the cost of these new air conditioners isn't exactly derailing our business plan. It's been forcing our hand to replace more air conditioners that we normally wouldn't have to. But that's kind of the benefit of Choice being a privately held company. We're not a publicly traded company. We aren't beholden to stockholders. Private companies operate very lean. They operate very efficiently, and that's why we've been able to keep our costs down. But again, we are going to have a price increase coming up in October. If you have transactions moving forward throughout the summertime, which I'm sure you all will, because this is the crazy season, another good idea is multi-year warranty plans. The cost is going to go up. And so when that customer goes to renew their warranty in the next year, it's going to be a heck of a lot more expensive than it would be through the summer, especially if you also have homes that are being sold with older mechanical systems. It's not a matter of if systems fail, it's a matter of when systems fail. If you have a client with cold feet, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the air conditioner was 20 years old. I didn't realize I had a 15-year-old water heater. Well, a 5-year warranty really makes that buyer feel a lot more warm and fuzzy as it relates to a transaction, that they're not just protected for that first year, they're protected for multiple years beyond that. And it prevents them from having to spend that extra money on that renewal rate when it comes back around. So again, if you're running into what's it called? Buyer's remorse as it relates to, putting transactions on houses and they all of a sudden are thinking twice about it. Many times multi-year warranties can help solve that problem and get them back in the game as it relates to moving towards the closing table. Does anybody have any questions at all about what we discussed? I know we had a few late joiners, but anybody have any questions, concerns? Yes.
Say my seller had a repair, how does that work? Are they billed with closing? Do they have to get a warranty right then and there to cover it? How does that work?
If you get a listing policy for your seller, obviously the smart move is to put the coverage on the day you list it. So listing coverage is free. Best case scenario, you put that listing policy in place the day the listing goes live, and that's just to ensure coverage. The worst call Christy and I ever got was the house has been listed for 3 months, and then the air conditioner goes out, and then they're like, "Oh, Christy, I need listing coverage." Again, listing coverage especially is not designed for pre-existing conditions. The failure has to occur during the policy period. So when you have that conversation with your seller, we're putting this house live, we want to have it protected the day that it goes live with a listing, so we're going to get listing coverage. There is no obligation. This is why it's kind of a win-win for everybody. When you get a seller's policy, there is no obligation to buy a warranty. If a buyer submits an offer and they don't ask for a warranty, your seller's off the hook. They don't have to pay for anything. Uh, the only caveat is if you want HVAC coverage during the listing period, because HVAC coverage is built into buyer policies, but you have to add it to listing policies. Why? Because air conditioners cost a heck of a lot of money. That's a lot more exposure for the warranty company. So you have to talk to the seller to say, hey, if we're going to include HVAC coverage, the warranty is going to be $60 more paid at closing. Again, if you don't use the warranty or if you don't negotiate it into the contract, your seller's off the hook. So again, it's not really a difficult conversation to have. How much value is there to have HVAC coverage during your listing period? It's infinitely valuable, and nobody would argue paying an extra $60 if they had an HVAC claim. But you do have to have that conversation on the front end. It is not paid up front, it's just rolled into the cost at closing. And so again, that can be not even paid with a check. You can pay with a check if you want to, but you can roll it into closing costs if you want to. Mm-hmm. But I would also say it's kind of one of those unsaid laws. If you're using a warranty, you're going to pay for it. Again, I think there are terrible situations where, like, literally you lose a listing, or this has happened. Someone has died before the house sold, and that just throws everything into probate. It's going to last forever. Obviously, those are the situations where we're just going to say go. But if you're calling in multiple claims during the listing period, it's kind of an agreement. Hey, you're going to pay for the warranty. But again, a lot of buyers, if they know that the warranty is being utilized prior to closing, why wouldn't they want a warranty after closing? So again, those aren't very difficult questions to ask. So again, start having those conversations during the listing period. And again, when you're talking to your buyers during your buyer consultations, start talking about all the possibilities. You already go through the lending process with them. You already talk to them about what to expect from a home inspector. You already tell them you've got to get a termite inspection. Now we start talking about warranties again, because again, if you live through COVID, warranties weren't even a topic of conversation, and they need to be again. Yes, you had a question?
Until we discuss further, maybe going back to the auto list, right now you would just text me, email, call, and then I would get the listing. I just basically need the seller's name and the address, and we would just put it in place for you. So me and my team's the kind of the key to that castle until we have more discussions about that. Any other questions? You good? Yeah, I knew you were going to want to.
Well, thank you everybody for your time. Again, I could talk about this for probably another hour and a half. There's so many more nerdy details that I could have gone into, but that I didn't. But at least there's a bullet point, key takeaways from this presentation that hopefully you can take out into the field. If you have questions, if your clients have questions, feel free to text Christy. If she can't answer it, she can contact me. I am here locally, even though I work nationally with Choice. I'm available to answer any questions that y'all feel are a little bit over your head or you're not completely sure about, because we want you guys to get it right. It all boils down to customer satisfaction and making folks happy, and that's what we're here for. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Brad. I will say I wish you were still a home inspector because you sound like you're really good at it. But that's okay. I'll keep using my guy. Okay, we do have a sponsor here. He's good too. Just kidding. We do have a sponsor here. So Tiffany Crawford, did you bring a friend with you? Is this your friend? Or okay, hi. Anyways, they're from DR Hortons. They're gonna come and tell us. Do you want to come talk a minute about some of the stuff that you guys have and the houses and products that they have? So they are going to come and talk, and they brought us some lunch, I think. So they're going to tell us a little bit about DR Horton, what all they have to offer in their neighborhoods and things like that. So I will pass it off to them. So you, sorry to turn pain.
It's okay. No worries. Well, good morning, or it's almost good afternoon, but good morning. Thank y'all so much for having us and allowing us a little bit of time to talk with y'all today during your sales meeting. We really appreciate it. I'll try to stay focused. I walked by, I think I got a whiff of the pasta and the breadsticks, so I'm gonna try to stay focused after that. Just a little bit about us. So DR Horton was founded in 1978 in the great state of Texas by Mr. Donald Raymond Horton. And one of his goals was to be able to provide quality, affordable housing for people no matter what stage of life they were in. And for that reason, we have 4 different product lines. We have our Express series, our traditional Freedom, and our Emerald series of homes. Here in Tennessee, we will have the Express series and our traditional series of homes, which are if you're in the Millington area, I would encourage you to come out there and see Danielle and myself. We sit out there in Millington in those subdivisions, and that way you can kind of easily get a picture of what is the differences between the Express and the traditional series of homes that we have out there. So if you can come on out and visit some of the model homes, we can give you a tour of Millington so you can see some of those differentiators. Like in our Express series of homes, you're going to have like your 8-foot ceilings versus in traditional, you'll have your 9-foot ceilings, things like that. The traditional series is going to be slightly more elevated, I would say, for lack of better words. And then I passed out some materials for you all too to take a look at. And just a little bit more about us, I guess, in the market, especially for this last year, I want to say, we closed a little under 85,000 homes last year, and about 43 of those homeowners were first-time home buyers. So we do have a really big market as far as the first-time home buyer section goes. And about 72% of those homes were priced under $400,000. So we've got a really good price point for them too, to get into a brand new home with the warranty and all those things. And Millington, even more specifically, in Millington, 1 out of every 3 homes sold in Millington is a DR Horton home. So that's quite a bit. Yes, it is. And it's one of those, like with Millington, people who love Millington, like they get it and they love Millington. That's where they want to be and that's where they want to stay. So on the front sheet that Danielle handed out to you, it says that we are America's #1 home builder, and we have been since 2002, as far as in volume and in customer service surveys. But who has sold with DR Horton before in the room? Okay, nice. And who had no idea what DR Horton was, thought it was Dr. Horton until today? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like that was myself too until I started working here. Just a couple of things on this front page that I want to highlight. I love the part where it says your life, your way. We have multiple locations, floor plans, amenities, really to fit any lifestyle. So we have, right now, we have 3 subdivisions in Millington. We have 2 in Oakland, 1 in Somerville. So we're kind of a little more on the outskirts. So if you have those clients that kind of want to be a little bit further out from the city, a little bit away from it all, but not too far where they can't drive into the city and get all the great things Memphis has to offer. And then our customer care warranty is probably my favorite part. So we have a 10-to-1 warranty is what I like to call it. So the first year is basically covering the overall fit and finish of the home. That second year covers all of your mechanical systems, and then we have a 10-year structural warranty. And then a home for every budget. Home prices range from, it says on here, low 200s. In our area, it's going to start around 270 or so. I think that's pretty accurate, up until about a little under 400,000 for the price of our homes. And what a lot of our buyers like is that we are a one-stop shop. So with our company, we offer DHI mortgage, DHI title, and we also have our own insurance as well. So I think that's another thing that first-time homeowners really appreciate, is because they can go to one place, they have everything laid out for them, and somebody can walk them through the entire process from start to finish. And they don't have, of course, we encourage, if you can shop around, please do. But we do offer all those product lines if you decide to move forward with us. And we also have the highest customer service surveys around too. So enough about us. I want to talk about what we can do for you and your clients. That very next page is our D.R. Horton Memphis Elite 2006 Brokers Appreciation Program. So pretty much after your first deal with us at D.R. Horton, each additional home you close with us, you'll get a bonus of an additional $2,000 from us. And there's no cap on that, because we have some agents that are just tearing it up in the subdivision, just raking in all the bonuses. But there's no cap on that. That's just a little more of an incentive if you have clients that could really benefit from what we have to offer. Then that's just a little more of incentive to come out, right? Is there anything you want to add to that? Okay. And right now, for some incentives that we are offering, the very next page, we are offering $10,000 toward their closing costs when using DHI mortgage. And as you can probably imagine, most of our incentives are going to come with if they do use DHI mortgage. So we can offer up to $10,000 for them if they purchase a new home in June. And then we have some special interest rates as well. So we have a 4.99 and a 5.5 going on right now. And we also have a 3.875 ARM that a lot of people have been taking advantage of, especially in the Millington area where it's pretty transient. So the first 5 years are going to be locked in at that rate. So especially if people are in the area and they think they may have orders to move pretty soon, within that 5 years, it's a great program for them because they can take advantage of that 5 years getting that really low rate. And if they have to move or relocate afterwards, then, they've taken advantage of the best part of the program. Okay.
For this one too, you can refinance at any time. So that's one thing that's great for your buyers too. And like total up to 7 years, it's not going to be what market rate would be, just because it can go up or down 1 point each year. There's different guidelines, I guess you would say, with this specific ARM loan. I know back in the day, ARM loans, what happened, and now it's very scary. This has a lot of protective things around keeping it safe for your buyers.
You want to talk about home now?
Oh, okay. We have a Home Now program. Basically what that is we will give down payment assistance for your clients. It raises that interest rate just a little bit to a 5.75 instead of a 4.99, for example, if they did FHA. But if they pay each payment on time for 5 years, then that is forgivable. So that's really cool about that program as well.
And then the next pages I have for you are some of the price sheets for the 3 subdivisions I have in Millington. And then we'll get everyone's email address. I'll give you our QR codes as well. So if you want price sheets for the subdivisions in Oakland and Somerville, happy to get those to you as well. And then the very last page is a list of my move-in ready homes for the Orchard. And that's my traditional series of homes that's out in Millington. So yeah, who's come out to see some of our model homes before? Has anyone seen? Okay, nice. Okay, awesome. Thank y'all. And I would love to get you all's information and invite you out to come and take a tour of our subdivision. So that way, when you do have clients that are looking in the area, you can know whether it would be a good fit for you or not. Sound good?
I will say D.R. Horton's a really good option for people who the rates are higher and they can't get what they're looking for at that price range, right? Like with prices being higher, and then interest rates being higher, it makes it more affordable if you can go somewhere and get pre-approved with DHI, so that you get that lower interest rate and you can maybe get more house for your money. And of course, then they have that really cool bonus. And I mean, I'm sure it's fine if you go out there and visit them too, use it to create content, like use it as a day to just like video some houses, do some promotion, market, and then just say hi to Tiffany and Danielle. Yeah, so I'm sure they're really welcome to help. Thank you guys so much. Go check it out. And then obviously keep it in mind for your clients, but thank you for bringing lunch and we really appreciate you guys. And then thank you, Christy and Brad, for stopping by. This was great information. I'm going to start like singing this from the rooftops because it sounds like it's a big deal. And you're right, nobody's paying attention to it. I haven't heard anything about it. So I do want to, y'all go have some lunch, but then our sponsors and you guys, if you don't mind, stop and we'll get some pictures so we can celebrate, like kind of shout you guys out. And we'll get this recording out to, I'm going to send this recording out to the whole market center so that they are super aware of it. So we appreciate you guys for coming on out and y'all go have some lunch and let me know if y'all need anything.